All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Similar to last week, we're gonna go ahead and work on a dynamic drawing and implement the anatomical markers and features that help enhance the drawing. Yeah. I kind of settled on a pose that I've been wanting to do for a while. All right. Where am I going to start? So I always start with a nice big circle, and that's going to tell me the placement of the rib cage. So this circle, I'm going to actually extend a little bit, because I'm looking down. No, I'm not going to do that. No, the pose that I want. Here, maybe this goes a little smaller, just so I can fit everything up there. Alright, so the shoulders and feet like right here. I'm not going to even worry about the bottom half, because with the pose that I want, I kind of want the shoulders to be dropped, and his arms are going to come down, like he's going to be swinging. This is going to be right around where the pit of the neck is. And these are my shoulders. So his arms come in. I'm just gonna mark this. This is the flow. I want to get this initial intuitive gesture going. I don't want to fragment it too early. I just want to get this, in what direction do I want the energy to be placed? And when you're drawing, especially in illustration, it's important to kind of push the gestures, push your body to its limits, whatever you're drawing. I know that this is going to be his neck in here. I'm going to make sure it looks like he's stretching out and he's really reeling his head back. So I'm going to bring that chin up a little bit. And that jaw kind of gets placed right in here. I don't want to get too small too quickly. This is his neck in here. He has mastoids that are going to come in there, but let's not get too anatomy heavy just yet. I want to push his shoulders down at an angle to really show that he's stretching out his body. I know that if this is the top of that box of the rib cage, and his rib cage is slightly foreshortened, this is going to be his shoulder and his bicep in here. It looks longer because it's pushed down, it's accentuated down this way, and then his forearms come in here, right around. And maybe I want to put this hand in front of the other. So I'm just going to put that shape in there. I'm not even worried about the fingers just yet. So I know that his shoulders are pushed down a bit. I know that his deltoids are going to be a little bit further down than normal. And that's just the illusion that I'm creating. It's not actually placed anywhere different on the body. It's just, it looks lower than what we're used to because of the position of the character. So from here, I got this good idea of what my gesture is going to be. So, what sort of question am I going to be asking myself to help push this drawing further? I guess the first question that I tend to ask myself is, where do I want it to go? Well, I kind of already know that. The next question is, if these are my deltoids, right? where would the anatomy be placed? Maybe push that a little bit further up. I know that in here, in my head, or neck, excuse me, I have these things, these muscles that come in from behind the ears and go down to the pit of the neck where the collarbones meet. I'm just placing these as a reference, and maybe I can probably like push this a little bit further down to show those shoulders coming down even just a little bit more. But these muscles in here in the neck that go behind the ear, those are known as your sternocleidomastoids. Those are the neck muscles that help your head turn. I know behind here, those are going to be my traps. And usually they kind of like come in at an angle, go around like a mountain, and then just come down. So it's like just like that. Let's go ahead and push this around just a little bit. And normally you don't have to be so like accentuated. I don't usually get my drawings this dark. I'm just doing it to show what I'm doing here. And right here you have your shoulders that will come down at an angle, and then they attach somewhere on the humerus, on the outside of the humerus. That's the bone that's up here, in the upper arm. I know that the tricep comes behind that deltoid and will wrap around the side, and what's left here is the tendon of the tricep. There's that muscle in between the tricep and the bicep, which will insert itself up here, and then right here underneath the elbow. And you have this muscle that will attach to the tendon of the tricep that comes out and in. This is known as your brachioradialis. And there's a flexor muscle that comes in here. And these muscles in here help your fingers contract. And usually it's personified by this bulge that is within the form. So the way that I'm looking at this is that there's this like tube in here, right? And this tube comes out this way into the wrist. Right, that's the form of the forearm. And these muscles play a role in sort of securing that tube. And they'll come in, lean into your wrist, and then your hand comes out of that. That's what I'm looking at when I'm here at this stage of my drawing. Same thing on this side. So my deltoid comes out. Remember this part in here, that's your acromion process. That's where the bone wraps around to the scapula in the back. But we're not concerned with that right at the moment. So the deltoid will come out this way. The bicep will insert itself underneath. And these deltoids will attach themselves to the pectoralis. And the pectoralis will attach itself right underneath the collarbones, all the way to the sternum. This is my sternum in here. My pectoralis comes in here, and it'll attach to a similar spot as the deltoid. Maybe like just a little bit behind. I keep forgetting my anatomy, but just to like fact check myself, you know. So the bicep inserts itself behind, and and then comes out and reinserts itself here. Remember that tube of the forearm, the tricep comes out. That's the tendon in there. Now the tendon of the tricep will lean itself towards the elbow, but because we see the underside of the forearm here, that elbow is going to be tucked back here somewhere. Same thing on this side. We have the brachioradialis that comes this way. That muscle that comes back out. This whole thing is brachioradialis. And this guy that comes around here. This is a way of me learning anatomy while also teaching at the same time. So we're kind of learning together here. So I'm placing these lines in here just to give me an idea of the representation of that anatomy. But if I'm just going for straight illustration, you know what I would do? I would probably just put a quick line up in here, and then underneath, and just give it a quick hatching motion to show the underneath of that collarbone. And then the shape of the pit of the neck is usually this triangle. Just kind of shade that in. Your mastoids, they're not linear, they're shapes. So the mastoid, if I'm drawing the form of the neck, right, this is the same proportion. This is the head in here. His face is also facing up. So the mastoids, these are his ears, come up behind the ears, and there are these little tubes that will attach itself to the pit of the neck. And you have your other muscles that come out here. Yeah, these are going to be your mastoids in here. And that's what helps the mobility of your head. And those clavicles clavicles will come in here and lean in, and that's where the pit of your neck is. So your clavicles have this handlebar kind of shape to them. They lie right there, and right in here, that's your acromion process. That's where the deltoid will attach, just like that. And your pectoralis attaches here to the top, come down. So there's this at the back of the trap, there's this little space in here. And it's really just an absence of muscles in this space. You have some muscles in here, and in between the tricep and the collarbone, there's not really any muscle. If you feel up there in that little space, you're gonna feel a space. It's just kind of empty. So if I want to, if this is the shape of my pectoralis in here, and I want to personify the pectoralis, I know that the pectoralis has three major groups. Forget the name of them, but it's basically upper, middle, lower, right? Upper, middle, lower. But if I want to personify the direction or the shape of these accent here, I don't need to articulate every little line like I just did. All I really need to do is just accentuate where they come in and where they insert themselves and where they bend and flex the most. Is like right in here, they're attaching themselves to the clavicle, and they attach themselves to the bottom of the sternum, which comes down here and leans into the costal arch right in there. So I don't really need to articulate the full range of the musculature. I just needed a few specific lines that are descriptive of what's happening. So these lines in here will articulate themselves to show that he's strained. These little lines, that's all they are. Same thing for here. So I don't need to show you exactly where the costal arch is and where that sternum comes down. And oh, that's the bottom of his ribcage. All I really need to do is like place a couple of like shadow shapes. Right? And maybe even like, that's a little close. So I don't even need to put in the serratus in there. I can mark the edge of the bicep with just a line there. Same thing on this side. And the little technique that comic book artists use is they'll put a line, but to mark a space in shadow, they'll hash that line. So it like creates this 3D effect while like not using a singular line or like continuously hashing in the same direction. And you can do that here too, because the deltoid is going to come around here, right? If this is my deltoid, I can mark it or mark a shadow shape in here by doing this. Just rounding out. And what I can do is I can just shade it in. And that'll show three-dimensionality in there while only using a few descriptive lines to show that. And I know that he's kind of facing out this way so that underneath of his belly is probably going to be in shadow. And realistically, like people can see that, but because this is an illusion, I can make the artistic choice to like keep this non-descriptive. And what that does, leaving this area in the dark will push what's in the light forward. So everything in shadow doesn't have to be articulated. All right, so let's go ahead and like take our attention back up here because we still have a whole head and neck to articulate. So in this position of the head, he's looking up, right? So what that means is that everything's going to be foreshortened in this position. You can have your ears. If this is my eye line here, and I follow that third rule, so the rule of thumb is that in any given head, a third of the way down is your eye line, and then within this space, a third of the way down is your nose, and within this space, a third of the way down is your mouth, and then your chin hits. Right, so just like wow, wow. That's your nose. Those are your lips. Under, and then your chin. So that's the rule of thumb when it comes to faces. So if we follow that rule in here, this is the eye line, and like just put little markers. And a third of the way down is about here, right? A third of the way down is about here. And then your chin kind of hits in there. And you're going to see the underplane of the jaw, which will come back in space and go back up towards the ears. So this space in here, this is where the neck meets the skull. All this under here is the underplane of the jaw. And then those sternocleidomastoids come in. And we can just like mark that with some hatching. And for men, they'll have an Adam's apple in there. And we might fix up some proportions. It's not bad. It's not bad. I can put a little shading in here just to signify that the sternum is sitting back in space. I can put a little bit more in here. Just like mark this off. And just to show that the light is coming from up top, I can like mark a certain space to show that it's an underplane and it's facing away from the light. That lends itself to the three-dimensionality of it. Yeah. It's like all of this could be under the space of his skull, right? That could be in shadow. All of this is going to be in shadow, and you have your muscle in here. It's probably going to lend itself to the shadow. You have this in here. I might be a little too much. That's okay. We do this and we learn. I'm still learning. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. There is nothing wrong with being wrong. The whole point is to get it wrong so you learn what's right. And the more you learn, the more you realize that you're always wrong. You probably put some shading in here just to rectify some space in there. Right. Yeah, it's not a bad drawing. Those hands could definitely use some work, but it's not a bad drawing overall. I think that's where I'm going to end it today. If you stuck around, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a great day.